Think about how long summers felt as a kid. Now think about the last 3 years. If that comparison makes you uncomfortable, good, because there's a reason time seems to accelerate, and it's measurable. Most adults can name the moment they noticed it. Holidays arrive too soon. Birthdays feel like they're on a conveyor belt. A child says, "Christmas is taking forever," and you almost laugh, because to you it feels like Christmas happens every other month. So what's going on? Is time actually speeding up? No. The Earth still spins at the same rate. A second is still a second. But the way you experience time isn't a stopwatch. It's a construction. Your brain builds the feeling of time moment by moment, using attention, memory, and emotion. Change the inputs and the output changes, even if the clock stays the same. But before we dive into this, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Okay, now back to the video. To see how this works, start with something simple. Think about the last time you drove somewhere new. New streets, unfamiliar turns, you're scanning signs, checking house numbers, staying alert. You arrive and think, that took a while. Then you drive home along the exact same route. Same distance, same traffic, same speed. But the return trip feels shorter. The road didn't shrink. You didn't warp space. Your brain just stopped recording as much. On the way there, everything was new, so your mind took lots of snapshots. On the way back, it was familiar, so your brain compressed it. That's the first key. Your brain does not record every moment equally. It can't. That would be wasteful. Instead, it filters. It asks, is this new? Is this important? Is this surprising? If the answer is yes, it pays attention and stores more detail. If the answer is no, it takes fewer snapshots and the experience becomes thinner. Now think about childhood. Childhood is basically a non-stop flood of first times. First day of school, first sleepover, first heartbreak, first time you get lost in a store and panic, first time you realize adults don't actually have it all under control. When you're young, the world is packed with novelty, so your brain is working overtime encoding rich memories. Later, when you look back, that density makes childhood feel huge. Summers seem endless because there are so many pages to flip through. Now compare that to adulthood. How different is this Tuesday from last Tuesday? You wake up, you do the same routines, you talk to the same people, you take the same route, you scroll the same apps, you go to sleep. When life becomes predictable, your brain stops recording it with the same detail. It doesn't need to. Familiarity gets compressed. And here's the trick your brain plays. When you judge how long a period of time was, you don't do it by reading the clock. You do it by scanning your memory. Lots of memories means it must have been a long time. Few memories means it must have been short. So years can vanish. Not because you didn't live them, but because your brain didn't store many distinct moments. This is also why vacations feel strange. There's a well-known paradox, sometimes called the holiday paradox. When you're on vacation, time often feels like it's flying. Each day disappears because you're busy, engaged, and not checking the clock. But later, when you look back, the same vacation feels long, packed, and vivid. That's because your brain recorded non-stop novelty. New streets, new food, new problems, new conversations. Your memory is dense, so the trip expands in retrospect. Now flip it. A boring week at home can feel endless while you're living it, but when you look back, it's almost blank. Your brain recorded so little that it collapses into a blur. So time has two faces, the time you feel in the moment and the time you feel when you remember it. They can move in opposite directions, but novelty isn't the whole story. There's another layer that gets more powerful as you age, and it's simple math. A year is a fraction of your life. When you're 5, 1 year is 20% of everything you've ever experienced. That is enormous. When you're 10, it's 10%. Still huge. When you're 50, 1 year is 2%. Same 365 days, same seasons. But compared to the total span of your life so far, that year takes up less mental space. It feels smaller, and it feels faster. This connects to a classic idea from psychophysics, the science of perception. Humans don't experience intensity linearly. We experience it on a compressed scale. A small weight feels heavy if you're holding nothing. It barely registers if you're already holding a suitcase. The baseline changes the perception. A year feels massive when your life is short. It feels tiny when your life is long. Now add a third layer, how your brain samples reality. Your eyes don't smoothly scan the world like a camera. They jump in little jerks called saccades, pausing to gather information, then jumping again. Your brain stitches those snapshots into the feeling of a continuous movie. Some research suggests that when we're young, we sample the world at a higher frame rate. Attention is sharper, novelty is constant, and we capture more internal events per unit of time. As we age, processing slows, fixation patterns change, and the system becomes less sharp, not dramatically, but gradually. If your brain is capturing fewer distinct moments, then the same minute contains fewer internal events. The external clock doesn't change, but subjectively time can feel thinner, like less happened. Chemistry may matter too. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter strongly linked to novelty and learning, is also tied to time perception. When dopamine activity is high, the internal clock can feel like it's ticking faster, stretching experience. When dopamine activity is lower, time can compress. Dopamine systems change with age, and disorders that affect dopamine, like Parkinson's, often come with time perception changes. No single factor explains everything, but they stack. Each year becomes a smaller fraction of your life. Your days become more routine. Your brain records fewer distinct memories. Your attention samples reality differently. And when you look back, the timeline collapses. So what do you do with this? You can't stop the calendar, but you can influence the density of your life in memory. Your brain records novelty, it records surprise, it records emotion, it records moments that break the pattern. Which means one of the most effective ways to slow the feeling of life speeding up isn't to stare at clocks. It's to create more distinct pages. Learn something that makes you bad at it again. Change your route. Go somewhere new. Meet people outside your usual circle. Start a project that forces your attention into the present. Create traditions and landmarks, things that divide your years into chapters you can actually remember. Not because you're trying to hack time, but because you're trying to be awake for it. Because the scariest version of time passing fast isn't the speed of the weeks, it's the emptiness of the memories. It's looking back and realizing you can't tell one year from the next. And the hopeful part is that this is not purely something that happens to you, it's also something you can influence. So here's the question. If you could take one ordinary month of your life and make it feel as long, rich, and vivid as a childhood summer, what would you change first? If you want, drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more videos that explain the hidden machinery behind everyday experiences, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.